China headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, April 12th. Korea witnesses a substantial growth in overall employment in March, with senior workers noting a remarkable expansion in job opportunities, but their younger counterparts seeing declines. Meanwhile, China has been choking on severe yellow dust that has now taken over skies here in South Korea, prompting authorities to raise the alert level to caution for the public. And Korea's Jikji, the world's oldest surviving book printed with movable metal type, is on public display for the first time in 50 years starting Wednesday, local time, over in France. Korea saw a tangible expansion in employment in March, but the response to this latest growth remains mixed, as most of the jobs were for senior workers, that is, those in their 60s and above. Our business correspondent Cho Hyun-dong explains.
South Korea's 9-month decline for on-year job growth finally came to the end in March. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, there were 28.2 million people in employment last month, up around 469,000 from the previous year. This marks growth for the 25th consecutive month. However, it's the first time that growth exited the previous month in 10 months after consecutive declines were recorded beginning in June 2022. Statistics Korea says the data is in line with efforts to embrace a return to normal life under eased COVID-19 restrictions, which has resulted in an increase in outdoor activities. Job growth was driven by people aged 60 and above, which had the largest increase among all age groups with 547,000 on year. On the other hand, employment figures for those in their 20s and below, and also for those in their 40s, dropped from the previous year. New jobs were mainly created in the healthcare and social assistance sector, with 186,000 people hired, followed by 177,000 jobs in the accommodation and restaurant sectors. Jobs were lost in the manufacturing, retail, wholesale, and construction industries. Meanwhile, during a job task force meeting on Wednesday, the first vice finance minister announced that the government has selected several industries to focus on in order to bolster employment.
We will discuss specific plans to attract and train more workers, improve working conditions and bolster support for job matching in 4 industries, including domestic construction, shipping, fisheries and resource recycling sectors that have been experiencing a shortage of labour.
According to the minister, the number of job vacancies in February increased to around 210,000 after a slight decrease in January. He added that industries such as shipbuilding and healthcare are still having difficulties finding enough workers. During the meeting, ways to solve the labor shortage were discussed, and the government is planning to announce specific measures regarding the matter in the future. 신하영, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Korea is looking ahead also to pessimistic prospects over its economy as the International Monetary Fund has lowered its growth outlook for the country this year to 1.5%. Our Shin Se-byuk reports.
The International Monetary Fund on Tuesday cut its 2023 economic growth outlook for South Korea to 1.5%. That's down 0.2 percentage points from its estimate in January. It's also slightly below the Bank of Korea's projection of 1.6% made in February. The IMF did not explain the reasons behind the adjustment to its outlook, but it could be largely attributed to growing concerns that aggressive monetary tightening policies may impede global economic growth. In fact, earlier in the day, the BOK froze its key interest rate at 3.5% for the second time straight due to growing concerns over an economic slowdown. The 1% range projection for South Korea is on par with projections for other major economies. The IMF expects the U.S. economy to grow 1.6%, Japan's 1.3%, and Canada's to see 1.5% growth. But this would mark only the 5th time in history that South Korea's economic growth fell below 2%. The last time it grew below 2% was in 2020, when the Korean economy contracted by 0.7% during the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the IMF said the global economy faces a rocky road to recovery in 2023, edging down its global economic outlook to 2.8%. That's 0.1 of a percentage point lower than its previous forecast. The organization said lingering global economic uncertainties, such as the war in Ukraine and persistently high inflation, are affecting growth. Despite these grim figures, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, in a news conference on Tuesday, was rather optimistic about the outlook.
I do think the outlook is reasonable. It's certainly stronger, brighter than the last time we had the annual meetings in October. I wouldn't overdo the negativism about the global economy.
Yellen said a number of economies, including the United States, were proving resilient with strong labor markets, easing supply chain problems, and lowering energy costs. She also said the global financial system was also resilient due to reforms enacted after the 2008 financial crisis. 신새벽 Arirang News.
And speaking of the U.S., 2 out of 3 Wall Street banks believe the Federal Reserve's key interest rate will hit the 5 to the 5.25% range. Now, this is according to a recent survey of 12 U.S.-based investment banks conducted by the Bank of Korea's New York office. The banks were asked to share their prospects on how high the Fed's rate hikes will hit. Now, 8 of the 12 predicted that the rate will reach the 5 to the 5.25% range amid the ripple effects of the recent U.S. bank failures. Last month, in response to the same question, only 3 of the banks predicted this relatively lower range, with most forecasting a higher range of 5.5 to 5.75%. China has been surrendering to severe sandstorms in recent days, and they're now also spreading to South Korea, turning skies here yellow and air quality poor. In fact, authorities here in the country have raised their alert level to the 2nd highest on their 4-tier system, calling for public caution. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Yellow dust covered Beijing and other parts of China on Monday and Tuesday, with sand even piling up on streets, making it difficult for cars to pass. The yellow dust, which originated from Inner Mongolia, quickly spread to 18 regions in China, including Shanghai and Tianjin, on strong northwest winds. This is the 5th time that the country has experienced such extreme levels of yellow dust this year. China's Forestry Science Research Institute analyzed that yellow dust is appearing more often due to low rainfall in the region this year. And this is bad news for South Korea, which will see significant levels of yellow dust also flow into the country on Wednesday. During a press briefing on Tuesday, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said the highest level of yellow dust so far this year is expected to hit the country. He advised that the elderly and people with respiratory conditions refrain from going outside, but should wear a mask if they do so. At the same time, Prime Minister Han ordered related ministries and local governments to promptly inform the public of the current situation and thoroughly implement safety measures according to the Yellow Dust Response Manual. He also called on daycare centers, kindergartens, and schools to either close or have classes shortened in order to thoroughly implement and guide safety measures to protect the children's health. He urged organizers and participants to take appropriate precautions in preparation for outdoor events such as sporting events and performances. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Also here in the country, President Yoon Suk-yeol has designated the eastern coastal city of Gangneung a special disaster zone amid the rampant devastation in light of Tuesday's wildfire. The city will be eligible for financial support from the government for recovery and relief efforts. Meanwhile, the Korea Forest Service dispatched helicopters and personnel to Gangneung on this Wednesday to prevent a further flare-up. 1 person died and 17 people were injured in Tuesday's fire, which began just after 8 in the morning and was extinguished some 8 hours later. Around 650 residents were forced to evacuate as the fire burned through 380 hectares of land, roughly the size of 530 football fields. Nearly 100 properties, including 59 homes and the Panghaechong, a cultural asset dating back to the Joseon dynasty, were damaged. President Yoon Suk-yeol formally tapped Cho Hyun-dong as his new U.S. ambassador on this Wednesday. Cho is a Korea diplomat who served as first vice minister of the Foreign Affairs Ministry prior to this role. He is scheduled to depart for Washington, D.C. this week. The protocol behind his appointment by Seoul and approval by Washington only took about a week, which is said to be the quickest ever for the two countries, and pundits are linking it to consideration of the preparations for President Yoon's state visit to the U.S. later this month. And staying with bilateral ties, the Yoon administration has reiterated its doubt over the authenticity of the recently leaked U.S. defense documents and dismissed speculation about, quote, malicious U.S. spying on South Korea. Addressing reporters upon arrival in Washington, D.C. for summit preparations, Principal Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-hyo claimed defense authorities from the two countries believe much of the purported information in the documents has been forged. Kim also asserted that there is no message from Seoul to Washington on the matter, as the information within the documents has been fabricated by a third party. For the first time in half a century, a Korean literary treasure, the Jikji book, is on public display over in Paris as part of a broader showcase on the history of printing technology. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
The world's oldest surviving book, made using movable metal printing, is about to meet the public again. Korea's Jikji 심체요절, a UNESCO memory of the World Heritage, will be shown to the public for the first time in 50 years. It'll be on display at the National Library of France from Wednesday local time as part of an exhibition on the history of printing. The book contains the teachings of great Buddhist priests. For the display, it has been opened on a page about non-duality, one of the key beliefs of Buddhism. The essence of non-dualism is that two things that seem separate from one another, such as good and evil, are in fact not separate at all. Jikji's history dates all the way back to the 14th century. The book was printed at the Heungdeok Temple in Chungcheongbuk-do Province's Cheongju City in 1377 during the Goryeo dynasty. That's 78 years before the Gutenberg Bible, the first complete book to be printed on movable metal type in Europe. In the late 19th century, Jikji was moved to France by then Charge d'Affaires of the French Embassy in Seoul. In 1911, it was purchased by a French art collector through an auction. It was later donated to the National Library of France in 1952 and has been kept in the library storage since then, only going on display in 1972 and 1973. The exhibition in Paris will run until July 16th. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korea has joined the global race to prove that nuclear fusion can become a reliable source of clean energy starting from the second half of this century. Our Yoon has more on this ambitious endeavor.
The Korea Superconducting Tokamak Advanced Research, or KSTAR, aims to make nuclear fusion power a reality. It uses magnetic fields to generate and stabilize ultra-hot plasma. Its success in maintaining the high-temperature plasma for more than 20 seconds was announced back in 2020. But the feat wasn't officially published until September 2022 after being peer-reviewed. During that time, the KSTAR team broke their own record, managing in 2021 to maintain plasma for 30 seconds at 100 million degrees Celsius. That's 7 times the temperature of the sun, hence its nickname, the artificial sun. This year, the Korea Institute of Fusion Energy now aims to maintain 100 million degrees Celsius for more than 50 seconds, with the ultimate goal of reaching 300 seconds by 2026.
If we can reach 50 seconds this year, the technology will only improve from there. We're expecting to go through big changes this year.
International competition to create fusion power for the future of clean and limitless energy is intensifying. But at the same time, the countries are also collaborating through ITER, the world's largest fusion experiment to build and operate the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. South Korea joined the 35-nation ITER consortium in late 2006, which also includes the European Union, the United States, Russia, China, Japan, and India. Meanwhile, South Korea has announced that it has begun preparations to build a nuclear fusion reactor before 2035, which is when ITER is expected to begin operations. After testing its capacity for producing electric power, the government aims to complete the reactor plant by 2040. South Korea's first fusion reactor will have a capacity of 500 megawatts.
The remaining time is to secure the technology. If the reactor is constructed as planned, it will begin operations around 2050.
Nuclear fusion energy is the future of clean energy, as it doesn't emit carbon dioxide, nor does it produce long-lasting nuclear waste. And its main fuel is abundant and accessible, as it can be easily extracted from seawater. With this technology to change the paradigm of global energy, South Korea hopes to lead the commercialization of fusion energy. Yoon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, on the medical front, the latest local campaign against cancer revolves around the task of reversing lung cancer cells to a treatable phase. Our Cho Sang-min explains.
Lung cancer was the #1 cause of death among all cancer patients in South Korea in 2021, according to a government report. If detected early, lung cancer can be fully cured. But the survival rate plummets to 9% once the cancer spreads to other organs. To increase the survival rate, a South Korean research team has developed new technology that potentially enhances how the disease is treated. It's based on reversing cancerous cells into a condition where they can be treated. Before this technology was developed, cancerous cells or tumors in their early stages were not treatable with existing medication. And when they deteriorate, they spread to other parts of the body. The scientists used computer simulations to analyze lung cancer genes and discovered 3 key genes that can be reverted back to the non-spreading phase, which makes them treatable.
By inputting components of the lung cancer cells with the ability to spread to other organs into a computer simulation, we found the genetic combinations that can switch the cells back to the stage stripped of metastasis.
In addition, this method doesn't just apply to lung cancer. The researchers said the discovery is meaningful in that it paves the way for a new method to treat the disease.
Because this treatment method involves changing the cancer cells' characteristics, not killing them, it has a minimal effect on the normal cells. It's a new concept of treatment that's like safely treating diabetes or high blood pressure and maintaining health for a long time.
The team plans to commercialize this technology with a local bio company. They expect to carry out a clinical trial on people in the next 5 to 6 years. Cho Sang-min, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Myanmar, dozens of people have reportedly been killed in an airstrike launched by the military junta. According to the country's government in exile, the National Unity Government, roughly 100 people, including women and children, were killed in the village of Pajigi on Tuesday local time. Other reports put the death toll closer to 50. According to eyewitnesses, a military jet dropped a bomb on people that had gathered for the opening of a new facility built by the military government's opponents. A gunship helicopter then reportedly attacked the village for 20 minutes. Myanmar's military government has not commented on the allegations. Meanwhile, in Russia, day turned to night for some residents in the far eastern Kamchatka region when a volcano erupted, spewing ash as high as 20 kilometers into the sky. The eruption of the Shiveluch volcano took place on Tuesday local time. The resulting ash cloud covered about 108,000 square kilometers, an area approximately the same size as South Korea. It buried some villages in ash as deep as 8.5 centimeters. A red aviation notice was issued over fears the ash cloud could affect aircraft flying in the area. Experts say the volcano has since calmed, but haven't ruled out further ash clouds. The volcano is one of the biggest and most active in the region and last erupted in 2007. Turning over to Taiwan, where an unofficial badge worn by the self-governing island's Air Force has gone viral. It depicts a black bear holding a Taiwanese flag, punching Winnie the Pooh. The cartoon character has long been used to mock Chinese President Xi Jinping due to their supposed likeness. And the Chinese government has censored references to Winnie the Pooh in social media posts. The new badge has become a symbol of defiance against Beijing, which has conducted several days of military drills around the island. The drills come after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen met with United States House Speaker Kevin McCarthy last week. And finally, a pair of Michael Jordan's sneakers have been sold for a record-breaking $2.2 million. The Jordan 13s were sold in an online Sotheby's auction on Tuesday for the highest price ever paid for a pair of sneakers. They were worn by the basketball legend during the athlete's final season in Game 2 of the 1998 NBA Finals. Jordan scored 37 points in that game as his team, the Chicago Bulls, went on to win 93-88 against Utah Jazz. The shoes are in good condition and feature 2 large signatures by Jordan. Last September, a jersey worn by Michael Jordan in Game 1 of the same final went under the hammer for $10.1 million. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Avoid spending time outdoors today. The entire country is seeing unbearably high levels of dust, with dust alerts issued in most parts of the country, with levels that are 7 times higher than normal in the capital area. Now, northwesterly winds brought not only high levels of yellow dust, but also cold air to the country, with a cold weather advisory issued west of inland areas this morning. Meanwhile, dry air alerts remain in place in the east along with strong winds, so please take extra precautions against wildfires. Now, temperatures stay below norms all day, with big temperature differences more than 10 degrees Celsius across Korea. Afternoon highs are 2 to 4 degrees lower than yesterday under sunny skies that are covered with that yellow dust. Air quality remains unhealthy until tomorrow. Then rain is in the forecast from the south, spreading to the rest of the country by the weekend. Meanwhile, the temperature returns to normal tomorrow afternoon. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. But do stay with us for our daily panel session coming up right after this break. Thank you for now.
Busan, Korea is already reaching the entire world. Like ocean waves that travel far and wide. It's Busan, the perfect World Expo city. transforming our world, navigating toward a better future. World Expo 2030, Busan, Korea.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. You excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
According to US media, BTS has become one of only 3 groups in American music history to have secured 6 #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100 and to have seen one of its members also top that same tally. The other 2 acts are the Beatles and the Supremes. So what has been the response to BTS member Jimin becoming the first South Korean solo artist to top the Hot 100? What have been the broader implications of music collaborations between K-pop stars and their global counterparts? And is the K-pop industry undergoing a slowdown or a transition period?
Welcome to Issues and Insiders. K-pop boy bands are actively taking their genre to new heights on global music charts. And for this, I have Jeff Benjamin live on the line. Jeff, it's great to see you again.
Great to be back. Thank you for having me.
I also have Hayley Yang with us. Hayley, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
It's an honor to be here.
Right, Jeff, we'll start with you. Let's begin with the broader implication of BTS member Jimin topping the Billboard Hot 100 tally this month.
Yeah, well, you know, it's so funny because I was actually looking today at a calendar and I noticed that it was the 10-year anniversary of Psy's Gangnam Style follow-up single Gentleman, which is a song a lot of people thought would be that song to first be the first song by a K-pop artist or a K-pop soloist to hit #1 on the Hot 100. It didn't quite end up that way, but here we are now, a decade later, and BTS's Jimin is here with an amazing song that hit #1 last week on the Hot 100. And something that I think is really, really special about this single in particular is that the BTS members, they have been showing different sides of themselves, really artistic, new creative sides of themselves. But Jimin really showed his kind of, pop superstar side of himself. He was really brought a song that a lot of people, I think, that appealed to a lot of people around the world. To me, it sounded like something that The Weeknd or other big pop stars might eventually release. I'm getting distracted by this great video too, but he really went forward to try to appeal in a global way. His song was released in Korean and English. He put out different remixes of this song. He really tried to appeal to people in a lot of different ways, and I thought it was amazing that he was able to not only be able to connect with people in that way, but it happened so much so that he was able to hit #1 on the Hot 100. So it's very well deserved and a very exciting moment to be seeing him and BTS alongside the Beatles and the Supremes.
Right, indeed. And staying with that, Hayley, what are your thoughts on this remarkable feat by Jimin?
Well, I think it's without doubt a historic feat a historic moment for a Korean artist. And, for a lot of us Koreans, it's hard for us to separate these achievements by a Korean artist with Korea as a whole, So I think it's noteworthy to have this moment in pop culture by a Korean artist. But I also think there's a productive and healthy discussion to be had. And I love how Jeff mentioned the Gangnam Style anniversary, because if we think about how Gangnam Style peaked at #2 and Jimin's song took #1, Gangnam Style was without doubt a viral hit. And if we think about Jimin's song, and I might get butchered for saying it, I think we might have to change the way we think of the concept of what a hit means at this point. I'm not sure if Jimin's song necessarily was a viral hit like Gangnam Style was, in the sense that everyone knew about it and knew how to sing along to it. So I think it's a discussion to be had at this point.
I see, right. In the meantime then, staying with BTS members, Jeff, you recently did a piece, and do correct me if I'm wrong, a piece on Suga in light of his return as August D. What can you share with us about that particular interview?
Oh, yes. Suga, he made his return as XD, which is, of course, his solo moniker when he releases music outside of BTS. And it was really, really special. And I have to give a big thanks to him, because I really pushed to get some time on the phone with him and just hear him speak as an artist, as a musician, as a lover of music, because I know in particular when he speaks, he just has a really lovely and kind of a really introspective way of speaking. So I hope he's not too annoyed with me for forcing me to get on the phone with him and hear him talk about music, but he gave me more than than enough of his time, gave me extra time actually. And it was really, really special because I think he is at this point, he and the BTS guys are at this point where they're recognizing, not just that it's about getting big hit singles, hitting #1 every single time, but it's also about, the artistic expression, and their music is really exciting. This August album is going to be really, really big. He just shared some exciting features, some exciting track list on his album, and he's also trying to find that respect and that appreciation from fellow musicians. And I think this album is really going to secure that for him in a big way.
Right, hopefully. Hayley, also this week, Hype founder Kang Seok shared some photos of Jungkook with record producer Andrew Watt in his studio over in the US, sparking speculation about a possible collaboration with Justin Bieber. That being said, what would be the significance of such a joint project, do you think?
Well, it would be a moment of a former American teen heartthrob meeting a current Korean teen heartthrob. So I think it's significant in the sense of having a pop culture moment of that sort. Well, in a business sense, I think it's a significant moment of collaboration, considering that HYBE, BTS's K-pop powerhouse, acquired Ithaca Holdings, the agency behind Justin Bieber, back in April 2021. And it was noteworthy that a K-pop agency started acquiring foreign agencies beyond other Korean agencies, trying to expand their the width of their market. So I think we can expect more variety and a wider scope in terms of collaborations in the future, be it inside K-pop or outside of K-pop when it comes to these projects.
I can see many fans looking forward to that. And speaking about collaboration, Jeff, do walk us briefly through BTS's relationship with American rapper and record producer J. Cole.
Oh, yes. This has been another really big moment. And you can read a feature I did recently on Billboard about BTS and J. Cole's love throughout the years. And, once again, kind of even what Suga was getting at in our interview was kind of this recognition of wanting to see musicians eye to eye and wanting to be appreciated by their peers. J. Cole is a very well-respected, Grammy-winning, multiple Billboard 2 album #1 charts rapper himself, and he and BTS have had quite a relationship throughout the years in terms of just BTS being able to show their love to him throughout the years. It's funny, the actual first time we met Jungkook, youngest member Jungkook, who we just spoke about, was through a SoundCloud song that they uploaded, him and RM uploaded, and it was actually a cover of a J. Cole song. And just throughout the years, BTS has shown a lot of love to J. Cole, and J. Cole recently showed a lot of love back to BTS. He met Jimin and J-Hope at Lollapalooza when J-Hope and J. Cole, of course, were headliners at Lollapalooza. He gave his blessing for them to use a sample of his song on their most recent compilation album, Proof. There has been a lot of really exciting love, and then this single was kind of like the ultimate epitome of just J. Cole's biggest fan and J-Hope coming together in this way, and it was really, really beautiful, really, really special. And even in behind the scenes videos, you see J. Cole calling it a blessing. So it's not just about this sort of one-way street or Korean artists only wanting to collaborate with American artists, but there's really that kind of two-dimensional respect, and it's really beautiful to see. I love it.
Right, that person-to-person connection. Meanwhile, beyond BTS, Hayley, let's now talk about another K-pop mega group that is making its mark on the global music scene. I'm speaking about SM Entertainment's NCT. First then, do tell us a bit about the group NCT itself, Hayley, and about its subunit NCT Dream, which is currently touring the US, I believe.
I'm happy to talk about them because I actually enjoy their music. So NCT is a boy band that comes from the K-pop powerhouse SM Entertainment, which you might know because of boy bands like TVXQ or Girls' Generation that are already well-known names in the K-pop sphere. And NCT operates under a very complicated but unique system. So NCT consists of 23, a whopping 23 members as of now, and these 23 members can form at any given time subunits that can change its member lineup in any form for any designated song, depending on which members would suit that song the best. Are you following me?
Kind of, I am. How are fans
so
responding to that, though?
Excuse me?
Haley, how are the fans of NCT responding to that arrangement?
Right. In the beginning, a lot of fans were quite confused by the concept and had to catch up with the changing lineup at every single release. But I think it became a signature mark of the group, and it became a core brand identity of NCT, and explains why the group has been seeing such high sales numbers in recent years.
Good to know.
NCT Dream is one of the subunits to come from it, consisting of 7 of the 23 members.
And what's been the response, Haley, to NCT Dream's US tour?
Well, NCT Dream has been seeing especially high popularity among the subunits in these days, and recently launched the US North America leg of their world tour recently in Newark, New Jersey last week, and plans to perform in a total of 32 runs in 22 cities around the world, and the reaction has been very passionate over the weekend.
Good to know. Jeff, I hear you had the pleasure of speaking with NCT's Mark recently. What can you tell us about that exchange?
Yeah, I get to talk about all my interviews in this. This is so fun. But yeah, you know, Mark and NCT Dream, they came to the East Coast where I'm based. They played in Newark's Prudential Center. And Mark was very gracious in giving me some time before his big concert, NCT Dream's first U.S. concert. And it was really, really wonderful because, you know, just like Haley was talking about, NCT, it's a very busy system. Even though Mark was technically on tour with NCT Dream, he was also gearing up for a solo single that we're able to see played on screen right now. And this is also another part of the NCT universe where the members release their own individual songs. And it was really, really beautiful because this song itself, it's very energetic. It's really fun. It's a little bit silly because it has sort of this inside fan joke that gets to how Mark had a moment on television where he didn't know how to fry eggs exactly. It's kind of a long story. You can read about it in our interview on Billboard. But while, you know, he was definitely willing to, you know, play along with jokes with fans and have fun with his music, he also got serious with me backstage where he talked about how, you know, he was very honest about his schedule and how he was feeling quite overworked in the midst of the pandemic in 2021. Mark is not just a member, rather, of NCT Dream. He's a member of NCT 127, another unit in the system. He's a member of K-pop supergroup Super M. He had a lot going on that year, and he realized that music, and solo music in particular, was his way to kind of cherish and hold his own treasures in that way. So it was really beautiful to kind of have those fun moments where we could talk about this fun song, but also talk about, you know, the reality of being burnt out and kind of the way he found himself back through music.
Right, which is why I suppose, Jeff, in your interview, you called him one of the busiest men in the K-pop industry, right? Right.
I did. I told him that, and I think he's very humble in not really accepting that term, but I truly think he is. He's part of like 3 different boy bands. I mean, come on. It's tough enough being in one boy band.
That's true, that's true. By the way, Haley, you previously talked about some management labels, that is, micromanaging their artists with regard to the content of their interviews with the media. Do you suppose this manner of management may be keeping fans from truly getting to know their artists as people and perhaps loving them for both their music and their quirkiness? What do you think?
Right, and I've seen it firsthand also during interviews, as I'm sure Jeff also has, maybe. I've seen some staff members intervene, but I've also seen some staff members make their artists feel comfortable and encourage them say what they want. So I really think it also depends on the agency, but I also do think there is a default level of so-called quality control going on in the K-pop scene when it comes to artists saying what they want to say during these interviews. And I personally agree with how that can interfere with fans getting to know what the artist truly think. But I also do think that kind of quality control is also part of the charm of K-pop, because maybe, who knows, what the artist really has to say might not be what the fans really want to hear or enjoy. So I think that kind of careful, crafted image making, more than what fans want to admit, might be part of the appeal.
Right, I see some food for thought right there then. Jeff, I believe we touched upon this next question quite a while back, but for the sake of those who may have missed you on our show last time, I'm going to raise it again. Some critics have said that K-pop is facing a global slowdown, while others argue the industry itself is simply witnessing a transitional period. Based on your coverage of the industry's insiders, Jeff, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm a little curious what statistics people are looking at when they bring up those facts, because, you know, as someone who has been watching this not just from a U.S. perspective, but from a global perspective, there's a lot of, you know, healthy and exciting growth in many different ways. You know, of course, if we want to compare it to, you know, BTS releasing multiple albums a year, it's going to seem a little different. Or if you want to compare the streaming numbers to Latin music or Afrobeat music, there's things that that K-pop isn't holding up to in those same ways. But at the same time, too, there's exciting growth and major growth in terms of the partnerships that are happening internationally. The album sales are growing, of course. The touring and more festival dates are growing in significant ways. And to me, those things are quite exciting. And I do also agree that, you know, there is a transitional period that we're in right now. And I think it's going to be almost, you know, kind of up to whoever can stand up to that moment, to be able to say, you know, where is music going? Where is the global music industry going? Not just where is the K-pop industry going? And how can, you know, these artists, these agencies compete in that way? So I think, you know, if it is a transition, it's simply about being able to meet the moment and being able to keep up with the transition. So to me, there's a lot of exciting growth. We're seeing groups like New Jeans and 50/50 able to enter charts like the Billboard Hot 100, not by, you know, fanfare and extreme, you know, downloads, but simply from having, you know, these viral hits and big streaming hits in that way. So there's a lot of exciting growth, and I think competition's only going to get better from here.
Right, and staying with that, Haley, what are your personal thoughts with regard to prospects surrounding K-pop in the near future?
Right. If you listen to the recent discussion that's been happening surrounding K-pop, there's been an awful lot of discussion and obsession about growth and just nonstop increase in numbers. And I think a lot of us can't help but find it quite funny, considering that a lot of people around the world didn't know where Korea was on the map a decade ago. And now the discussion is just so focused on growth and number ones, as if this industry has always been on the top of the world and always been glamorous and this big. And maybe this is not necessarily a very business savvy approach, but sometimes I just wish that a lot of the discussion would go back to maybe around the time me and a lot of people around the world probably got into K-pop for the first time, and, you know, really focus on talking about the fun and catchy aspect of K-pop and what people really enjoy about it more than the numbers and the business aspect of it. I think that's a lot of the missing part of the K-pop discussion that we see today.
Right. Meanwhile, moving forward, Jeff, you mentioned festivals. Now, Coachella 2023 is slated to kick off this weekend, and Blackpink is poised to headline on Saturdays. What does this latest feat for K-pop tell us about its global popularity, Jeff?
Yeah, it's going to be Pinkchella this weekend. It's so exciting. And I actually just published an interview with the Blackpink members where they all gave their personal reflections about coming back to Coachella, rather. And to me, I think this shows just how exciting of a place music is in a large way. Coachella is considered the sort of kick-off festival to all festivals around the world. And of course, it takes place in, beautiful California. This is when a lot of people kind of, put out their first festival performances and share the first things of what's going to be trendy throughout the year. Blackpink being able to headline Coachella alongside an artist like Bad Bunny, who, of course, a Puerto Rican reggaeton artist who had the biggest album, no matter which way you slice it, around the world last year. I think it shows that music is in a really beautiful global place, and having Blackpink not only come to Coachella as headliners, but come back to Coachella after first appearing in 2019, which was actually their first U.S. performance ever, which is quite amazing when you think about it. But that they really met that moment and they really lived up to that moment and proved that they had that sort of larger appeal that is necessary when you have a festival like Coachella with 250,000 people attending. So the fact that Blackpink did so well back in 2019, Rosé actually from Blackpink mentioned that was a moment that kind of helped Blackpink themselves recognize their dreams and their ambitions in a bigger way. Them coming back as headliners just goes to show that, dreams and that hard work, this all can really happen in a big way. And you just have to kind of really trust yourself and really get back to making sure that you are bringing all that you can to what you do. And I'm so excited to kind of see how they bring a larger, more imagined show to Coachella in that way, because I thought 2019 was amazing, and being able to see have a longer set, a bigger stage, it's going to be really, really exciting. So I think it goes to show once again that K-pop is hitting new strides and new milestones in that way too, and I can't wait to see what they bring to the stage.
Jeff, will you be there at the Coachella 2023?
I wish. Unfortunately,
Me too. I wish as well. Right, Haley. Meanwhile,
I know, we're stuck at home.
Right, I see. Haley, what are some of the other events to look forward to with regard to K-pop this season?
Well, we opened this session with boy bands, but one thing to definitely look out for is the battle of the girl groups, actually. We are looking forward to a string of comebacks from some of the biggest female acts in the scene right now. So we've already seen New Jeans come back and is still dominating the charts as we see today. I've made a comeback a few days ago and it basically have dominated the chart with all of the tracks from their newest album. Le Seraphim and Aespa are coming back next month, and we expect to see basically a battle of the female acts in the spring season, so look out for those, and hopefully more new records in the album sales department, because these are some of the acts that have broken records back to back in the last year. And some of the other events to look out for are the fact that audition shows that were once considered quite outdated are actually back this year. I don't know if you've been following some of them, but
I'm looking forward to them, actually.
Mnet's Boys Planet has been all the rage these days. Everyone seems to have their pick. So Boys Planet will be announcing their final lineup and the project boy band consisting of the finalists this month, so look out for that. And they will also be announcing another female audition show consisting of current girl groups within this month, so stay tuned for that.
Right, and hopefully, Haley, you'll join us next time to talk more about K-pop girl groups then. You, Jeff, as well, of course. For now, then, thank you so much, Haley, for your time and your thoughts. And Jeff, as always, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, well, that is all the time we have for this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow. That is Thursday.
Ireland, like Korea, is a very outward-facing country. Our peoples are curious about the world. Like Irish people, it matters to Koreans that your story is told well, that people understand your values, your culture, your perspectives.